There we go. Welcome everyone to season 6 of the Runners Roundtable, where in this season it is favorite running memories, and we get to explore what it means to be a runner and to be a runner and someone who moves their body beyond paces, beyond the metrics. It's the experience of being a runner. And that's this season has been exploring all those stories. And this episode is Dr. Ari Gonzalez. You might be familiar with her voice because she was recently on the podcast where we talked about all things pelvic floor or pelvic hammock. And I'm so excited to have you back because you've got a lot going on now that you didn't have when we first spoke. So I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to us, give us a little bit of an update of your life over the past year or so, because I know you've got a lot of big changes and a lot of exciting things. So let us know who you are, what's going on, and what are your thoughts on running as a woman?
Okay. All right. Well, I'm so happy to be back on the podcast. Thank you, Steph, for having me. Like she said, I am Dr. Ari. I am a physical therapist that specializes in treating the pelvic floor. So I do work primarily with women. And this year, you're right. I have so much going on. It's so fun to be back a year later and kind of see where we're at. So last year when I was on the podcast, we talked about how I'm like, well, Steph says that everyone's a runner, but like more of a newbie runner. I hadn't run a race, and I actually ran my first race this past year, which was super fun and exciting. And it left me craving that feeling all over again. I also, what else do I have going on? So I should give some backstory. So I am the founder of Forma Physiotherapy, which is my own physical therapy clinic, and I am going to be opening my first in-person clinic space in Miami soon. So TBD on the date, but hopefully early spring of 2026. And then I started a new collab called the Vital Club, and it's all for women's health. So I partnered with a chiropractor and a nutritionist, and which are also women, and we're very passionate about kind of providing women with information so they feel empowered about their health. So we're going to be starting like hosting different events and starting a podcast together where we're going to cover women's health topics. So TBD on those dates, but the podcast should ideally be launching sometime in February, which we're super excited about. And our first event is actually this upcoming weekend, and it's all for postpartum women. So super, super excited about that.
Yeah. Okay, the final question. I know I always do this to you all.
Oh my God.
I ask like 10 questions at once and then I don't even remember them. But that the last question was your thoughts on running while being a woman or running while being in a female body.
I think running is such a unique sport in the sense that it's really you versus you. And it's also a sport that is technically really easily accessible, right? Because you just need your body, you need your 2 feet, you just need to get outside or get on the treadmill, and it's a beautiful sport. And I think it just gives you that endorphin run. And as a woman, I think it can be tricky. There are things that I think women have to keep in mind when they run that men probably do not. And I know Steph can probably enlighten us more, but like whether it's late outside, whether you're running by yourself or with someone, or, all these like safety things I think about when I think of running as a woman, which is horrible, right? That shouldn't be the first thing you think about, but it really is. Um, and I don't know, I love hearing like all these like women's stories. I personally treat a lot of women who run and help them get back to running and postpartum. So that's also something I think about when I think of women and running. Just like working with our body and learning that, our body is much more capable than we think, and it just communicates with us. And certain symptoms are probably telling us that something's going on that we need to address. So I think running as a woman is beautiful, I think I don't know, I could teach you a lot about your body and what it's capable of. So I think that's where I'll leave that.
Yeah, for backstory for those who don't remember, I've been working with you with pelvic floor for over a year now, and it's been such a huge shift in my own running. Whereas now, like, it's silly, but I'm like, oh, I know for sure I can run for 2 hours and not stop and use the bathroom. Whereas before it was, I couldn't make it an hour without having to stop and use the bathroom. And it's that connection with my body in that way, right? Because running does create a certain connection with your body, but working with you and understanding the pelvic floor and the core and how everything in the body works together has empowered me to be able to go out there and, like, start back up with even just doing speed workouts and feeling confident that I can do them without necessarily peeing on myself, because I didn't understand prior to working with you the concept of pressure, right? And like how that pressure builds in the body, or how it's there, but then also how that pressure changes based off of whether I'm running easy or quote unquote fast, because there's a big difference, y'all. There's a huge difference. And it's been really cool for me to kind of learn about my body in that way, as a female runner who's had kids, who's also just aging,
Right.
and my body is changing. So it's working with you has allowed me to embrace a lot of that, like where I'm at and how my body responds to not just the running training that I'm doing, but even just like, but the strength workouts and all of that. Again, for me, it was so life changing when you just taught me about the pressure piece. Because now it's like I'll do a squat and I'm like, oh, that's where the pressure piece, like, oh, I feel it there. And again, when
Yeah.
I'm running, the difference between running at an easy effort and then running at a faster effort. And I'm very fortunate to be able to work with you. I wish more women could, because that's one of those like access points too that I think about in terms of how many women maybe don't run because of something like that.
I actually think of that often, right? So like I said, I work with so many women postpartum, and not even just immediately, because when you think postpartum, you think those first 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks. No, I mean, like, postpartum is forever, first of all. But
Mm-hmm.
I work with people early postpartum, but also a year out, 2 years out, 10 years out, right? Like, I still consider that a postpartum body. And so it's interesting, because for me, what I find a lot of times is a lot of women will even tell me, like, oh no, I don't run anymore because I pee myself. Or then I also have women who are like, oh no, I run anyway, but I wear a pad, or I have to stop X amount of times to use the restroom. But, like, running is their sport, so they're unwilling to give it up, which I completely understand. But they're just kind of like coping with and like accepting this change. They're like, oh well, now my body just doesn't handle this well, so I can still run, but I will be peeing myself, or I will have to stop X amount of times along my run. And I do have to plan my run around like where the nearest bathroom is, you know? So, but I do get a lot of women who actually tell me, oh no, I don't run anymore because I pee myself, or I had to stop running. I used to enjoy it, but like it's not really a thing anymore. And it's always that education piece of like that it doesn't have to be that way, right? For both women, like both the one that tells me that she just has to plan her runs around the bathroom, and for the one that just completely stopped running at all. I think it's learning that body awareness piece that you're talking about, and knowing like what's going on in her pressure management system, right? So is it the pelvic floor? Is it her core? Is it her breathing mechanics? Like, what's going on, and how can we address that in a way so that she can still run, she can still participate in her sport, and like you said, not have to be constantly thinking, instead of thinking about like, oh, I'm enjoying this run, or oh, I'm really out of breath and I'm dying, but like hitting a new PR or working towards something like sports related, right? Like you end up like just what consumes your brain is okay, and where's the nearest bathroom? And did I pee like close enough to when I started my run? And when I end the run, is there a bathroom nearby so I can go again? I think that becomes the overwhelming kind of like thought, right?
Yeah. I mean, as someone who was there, I can definitely say that's it. And even just like recently, right? Um and the bathroom was like 2 miles away from where I started, but it was over the holiday break. I definitely made sure that I ran the route with bathrooms on it. There were two ways I could have gone. One way had bathrooms and water, and then the other way had nothing. So like either way, I would have ran the direction that had stuff. But I've definitely been that person that has planned my routes along where are the bathrooms. Like, and I've recently, not recently, but like over the last 6 months, someone had invited me to run on Miami Beach. And my initial question was, are the bathrooms open? And they're like, no. And I'm like, sorry, dude, I can't do it then. Like, it's just not going to happen. And it's because of that, because there's still like, even though I know I can go longer distances and I know I can go for a longer
Reassurance,
time, there's still that part of me that's like, nope, I need like, it's like a bathroom security blanket of sorts. But it's
emotional support back.
because, absolutely, but it's because of having gone through so much time and
Yeah,
thinking
so
that
many
it was
years.
like correct, that it was like normal. Like it's normal to not make it, like not be able to run for an hour without having to pee myself. It's normal to feel like, oh, I need to use the bathroom right before I start my run. And like it doesn't have to be normal. Like I think that's just it, where it's working with you, it's learning that like it doesn't have to be that way, especially because to what you're saying, it ends up being something that's so consuming, like so mentally consuming, that it takes away from the actual activity that you're wanting to do when you
Yeah.
have to put that much like planning and preparation into it.
100%, especially when it didn't used to be that way. You know what I mean? When you start noticing that change in your body, whether it's postpartum or with aging or with a combination, I think it can get really tricky and it almost like takes away from some of the enjoyment from just the sport. And to go back to your piece about access, I completely agree with you. I think it's something all women should have access to, which is something I feel really passionate about. So that's part of the reason where we like really started the Vital Club. And that's my goal with that is really to increase access to information to women, like, okay, you can't see a pelvic floor therapist one-on-one. Okay, there's other options. There's workshops we're going to be hosting. There's the podcast sharing like valuable information you can apply. I want this to be, because it should be just easily accessible to you, and it should be something that women are getting educated on and they're just not.
Yeah, 100%. So now bringing us to this season, right? This season, the Beyond Pace season. I'm curious to know where I feel like you might be one of the unicorns of this season in terms of you are on the newer side of things when it comes to running, where I've had, one of the earlier guests in the season, she's been running for 30 years,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like that is a long
My
time.
whole lifespan.
That is a lifespan. So she's a different kind of unicorn because it's been that long, and you are the flip side of her unicorn of someone who is newer to the sport, where you're probably not as crazy as I am when it comes to running yet. Like you probably have not reached the what is wrong with you level of running, because I think
Right.
you get there.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear, what is your favorite running memory thus far?
My favorite running memory. I guess I have two, but the more recent one would be on the retreat last year. It was my first real race. So I think we talked about this a little bit last year, but like the furthest distance I've run is like a 5K. I've always had this thought that I wanted to train for like a longer race, like a 10K or a half. So we'll get there. I don't know if 2026 is the year, but we'll see. I think there's too much going on.
Yeah, please don't make that the goal this year.
I think that there's too much going on. I know I keep going back and forth. I was writing my resolutions for the year, and I was like, oh, I'm so tempted, but I'm also like very conscious of the fact that, and just to give the viewers a little more insight, I'm also planning a wedding this year. There's just a lot going on. But but I think post wedding, I think that'll be the time. But anyway, going back, I just go off track so easily. Yeah, last year was the first race. It was a 5K on Steps Retreat. We were up in by the Great Smoky Mountains, and it was just such a cool feeling, right? Like I've ran 5Ks before. I used to run more probably when I was in high school and in college, and then more recently kind of got back into it this past year. And it was one of my goals this year to run a race. I had actually originally signed up for a 5K in I want to say it was May of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And for reasons that it didn't work out. So I ended up kind of feeling bummed. I was like, oh, I trained for it and I never actually ran it. And then I ended up going on Steps Retreat, and the 5K was a part of the retreat. And it was just such a cool experience, running alongside like a large group of people, just like the excitement of it. The weather was kind of incredible, in my opinion. It was like sunny, but like chilly. So it was like, and then also just like cheering, like once I finished, like cheering on the other runners. I don't know, it was just such an amazing experience. It left me kind of wanting to experience it again and again. So I'm not quite at Steph's level yet, but we might get there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the 5Ks, that's what hooks a lot of people, and that's what hooked me into running. And it's so interesting that you say like you're talking about the race itself, but what I'm really hearing you highlight is everything that happened around the race, right? So it's not so much, it's yes, you did the 5K, but it's kind of the experience of like being with other runners, watching people finish at the end, having that, you set the goal and then you accomplish the goal. And here's the thing that's like always interesting, because it's like, I'm sure, well, not even, because can you remind me, how did you feel during the race? Because I feel like you started off, if I remember, you were like, oh, I'll take a walk break if I need it. And then what actually happened during the race for
Oh
you?
yeah. So to give backstory, like I said, I had trained for the original 5K for May, and then Steps Retreat was in like September, and all of summer I did not run like once, like not even one single time. Miami was really hot. Like I was like kind of bummed about not racing, and I was like, I'll pick it back up in the fall. And so when we went on the race and I knew the 5K was coming, I was like, Steph, I have not run since like April. I was like, I'm probably going to have to walk this, or maybe I'll do like a run walk. But I'm just going to do it for the experience and just kind of, and I ended up running the whole thing. And I was so proud of myself. I was like actually surprised at my stamina and like my ability to run the whole time. And so yeah, I just felt really like empowered. I just felt really like, yeah, I guess proud of myself, especially finishing, especially that last bit, like getting through to the finish line. I was like, oh my God, I did this. Like we're here. So that was really cool.
Yeah, and that race, and it's funny because that race is actually what I would consider like a more challenging 5K, just because it does have, and this particular race, it's like pretty flat the first half. And then that second half where you're making your way back, it is more like they're like little rolling hills, just
Yeah.
doesn't stop. And then you actually have to like go up to get to the finish
I got
line.
that last up. I remember being like, I was like,
Yeah, that's why I'm like that. So it's not even an easy 5K, right? Because it's like if you would have picked one in Miami's going to be mostly flat, and it's a different race experience. So to have your first 5K experience to be one, it's in a different place, which is really exciting. It's yes, while you were on retreat, which is also exciting, but to have it be that you were able to watch people afterwards, that you were there. And also that day that we did the 5K, so that day on the retreat, we shifted kind of things around that last retreat. And normally we do a hike while on the retreat. And on normally the hike is on what was it? I think the hike is normally on Saturday, but there was supposed to be rain on Saturday. So we shifted the hike to Friday before the 5K. And I
Yeah.
remember doing the hike and thinking, wow, we went into Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It was absolutely beautiful. It was wonderful. And then I remember going back to the race and thinking, I made a huge mistake.
Really?
And it was about a 45-minute hike. And
Yeah.
which is like not long, but when you consider that the hike that we were just a steady incline
Pretty
the
incredible.
entire time. Like, well,
Beautiful.
walking up was an incline, obviously coming down, it was going down. But I remember getting back to the race and thinking, I have made a mistake with all these people. I am so sorry that we did this hike before the 5K, and yet all of you, like, it didn't phase anyone. Everyone was so proud of themselves at the end, and I feel like everyone ran more than what they thought they were going to run. Like, they
Yeah.
felt stronger than maybe what they thought they were going to feel.
100%. I was totally talking myself down the whole time, like going into like I remember we were like waiting, like when we were in line, like to get to the start line. And I remember we were just like kind of like walking and like waiting, and I was just like, I'm just gonna like walk, run it. Like I'm like no pressure. And then as soon as it started, I was like, it felt so good.
Yeah, and I guess the question I want to ask you is, what did you think running a 5K would be like? Like, when you think of yourself last year and you said, when you think of the Ari that said, I want to run a 5K this year, like, what was the reason for the 5K? Like, of all distances, because I have people who are like, I'm new to running, I want to run a marathon. And I'm like, why are we going to a marathon? It's so much. So I'm just curious for you, what was it about the 5K that drew you in?
Like I mentioned, like I used to run back mainly in high school, maybe early college. And I knew that was like the furthest distance I ever ran. Like I don't think I ever did much more than like a 5K. And this was me like like kind of like finding the love in running again. And it wasn't that I ever like stopped. It was just something that like life kind of like got busy and I just started doing other things and like had different interests, got into weight training more and other things. And so I just stopped running. And then for whatever reason, like start of 2025, I was like, oh, like, I kind of want to like try that again. Like I used to really enjoy it. And then like I went on my first run and I was like, oh, it was fun. I was like, why don't I just like start slowly training up to a 5K since it's been so long? And I was really enjoying the process of training. I was probably running like twice a week on top of weight training. And I was really enjoying my runs. Like I would go out to the park, and then the days I couldn't, I was running on the treadmill, and just like upping my mileage or my intervals each week, depending on what it was that I had planned out. And then I guess the other motivator for me was I had signed up like in December for that 5K, and it was in May, and it was for breast cancer awareness, and my mom just went through all that. So I really like I had this like mindset of like I want to show up, I want to get back into running, and like what a beautiful way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
um so like to like raise funds for breast cancer research and all that is the what is it called? It's like Mud Girl Run, I think. And so I'm thinking I might sign up for the one this year. We'll see. But yeah, I just thought it would be a fun way to do it. And then when it didn't work out at the time, I was like kind of bummed, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll get back into it in the fall when the weather kind of chills out. The summer was so hot, and
Mm-hmm.
I know the treadmill is a way to get the miles in, but I do really mostly enjoy running outside. So I was like, I'm not going to force it. I'll just focus on weight training again, and then add it back in the fall. And then the retreat came along, and I was like, oh, this is great. But yeah, I had really low expectations, and I think something about the 5K that drew me in. It seemed like, I guess, like beginner friendly, and like it seemed like attainable at the time. I was like, I can ease myself in, like there's no need to rush the process, and then once I get there, then I can like up for the next like distance. I guess I was trying to like be the therapist to me. Like I was like trying to be like, you don't do the crazy thing that you want to do and like train for the longer distance when there's no need to. I was like, you're just gonna get injured.
Yeah, and I think it's also, so it's, one of the things I always talk to my athletes about is, really, we kind of do a life assessment in terms of, do you have the capacity to dedicate the time to this,
Right.
right? Do you have the capacity to, if you're training for a half marathon, do you have the capacity to dedicate 3 to 4 days a week of running, right? In addition to whatever else that you're doing, if you're doing your strength training, right? Like there's other movement, whatever work is going on. Do you have is life positioning itself in a way that allows you to train? Because maybe this season of life for you right now is not the season to be adding anything onto your plate, but perhaps in the fall things might be a little bit lighter, or in the summer, so there's always that important discussion to have with yourself of what do I actually have time for, and can I make the time for that? And the 5K is such a beautiful distance because, one, you can train for that. Like it's not going to take a lot out
Yeah.
of you. And then you can continue doing it. You can run a 5K this weekend and then run a 5K next weekend and then do a 5K in the following weekend, right? Like the recovery time is very quick for that. So that if you have, you go to one race and you don't have the experience you want, you can always reset and do it at another one, which with longer distance, you can't. So it's almost like the pressure can be a little bit less
100%.
than the longer distances. And for most of us, even if you go and you're having an off day, most of us can walk 3.1 miles without it being too detrimental to like our health and our body. So that's also like for me, I think the 5K is such a great distance. I think it's a very underutilized distance, a very under celebrated distance because it is a shorter distance. And yet, if you really put a lot of intention into it, I think it can be just as hard as a marathon in terms of like the pressure you put on yourself to perform and to like you have no choice, but you're going from the start. There's no easing into a 5K.
I think it's such a good entry point run. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like as far as like accessibility goes and making everyone feel like welcome and like capable, I think it's because you can walk parts of it. Like you said, like most people can probably walk like at least a good chunk of it if they needed to and like still finish, right? Which like
Mm-hmm.
I think feels good, like as someone who's like a beginner. So I think you can really take the pressure off and just say like I'm gonna go and try this like and just enjoy the process, you know? So that's why I think the 5K is great. I do definitely want to train for something longer, but and I will definitely ask you about that when the time's but
Yeah, I was gonna say, like when you said half marathon, I'm like, I don't think this year is the year for that. But if
no,
there's a
100%. As soon as we were
10K,
talking about that life assessment, I was like, I know it's really not.
yeah, I think
But
you could do a 10K because you can continue on with your, 2 days of running and your strength training, and you can do a lot with that.
yeah,
I think anything longer than that requires too much, maybe, of a life shift for you, right? For you, especially for you right now. I think it's just too much. And there's also something that I talk to my athletes about, which I believe I've talked about on the podcast, right? This idea of your stress and what are your stress levels, because you're and I say it all the time, stress is stress is stress. Your
yeah,
body does not know if it's physical stress or if it's mental stress. It just knows
good
that
stress
it
or
is
good.
stressed. Correct. So if you, in your case, you've got so much going on where it's like, okay, so you already have all this stress, and running, while it may be fun, that is just another stressor on an already stressed system. So does it make sense to do that particular thing? Or is it that you're in a season where your focus is just consistency, and it's figuring out, how can I be consistent with running, even if it's 2 days a week, I'm running for 10 minutes each time. That's consistency. That's building the foundation. So it's that assessment of where am I in my life? What do I have the capacity to do? And this doesn't go just for running, y'all. This goes for like everything in terms of, is this something that's serving me? Is it bringing me joy? Is it making me happy? Is it helping me feel strong? Or is it something that's draining me, that's making me feel tired, that is feeling like a chore? Let's step back. So, um,
No,
go
I
ahead.
agree. No, 100% I agree with you. I think it's about realizing that you can do everything, but not all at once, at least not well. And is it worth to like overload your system? Like realistically, I think we can all pick like 3 things we're like prioritizing in life at a moment and like really give all those 3 things your all. And then, as seasons shift, then you can kind of switch those priorities. So yeah, I had to be honest with myself. As I was writing those resolutions, I was like, no, Ari, this is not it. You have too much going on. But when some of the dust starts to settle, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why you're such a great coach, because I think you are very honest and you do that life assessment, right? Because I think some other coaches would be like, oh, you want to do this? Cool, let's just figure it out. And this is the training plan and this is what we're going to do. But you take the whole person into account and what's going on in their life at the moment and then like set realistic goals so that they can actually achieve them,
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's my biggest goal always for my athletes is longevity. And in order for them to have longevity in sport, they need to be enjoying what they're doing. It has to make sense. They need to be having fun. Like if you're not having fun, it's going to be really hard to commit to doing the thing. Like there's got to be something positive coming out of it. And for some people, it's also like understanding their motivators, right? For some people, having a race on the schedule, that's going to motivate them to stay consistent, which awesome, but also does it make sense with what's going on in life? Does it make sense with all the stressors you have right now? If it does, cool, we're going to do it. If it doesn't, then we've got to dig a little bit deeper as to why you feel like you need to do that thing right now. And is it that you feel like you need to do it, or is there something else going on? But, you know, that's 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 why I say I'm a people first coach, because I want to, or person first, because it's like I need to understand the person and how running fits into the landscape of their life before anything else. And listen, again, like I'm like, you haven't reached the crazy part of being a runner yet. Because it's like I'll see like some of my athletes and their racing schedule for the year, and I'm like, okay, we've got a lot of work to do, and I know what's going on in your life, and this is what you want to do. Okay, so it is even for myself a challenge of how to make the training feel manageable, um, because it's got to be fun, and if it's not fun, you're gonna burn out, and that's really the reality of it. Um, so coming back to this memory, right? So we have this memory of you doing the 5K, of having like you really did, and this isn't just me like tooting my own horn, but I feel like you really did have the best experience, because not only did you get to race at a decently sized 5K, because I think afterwards we looked at it and it was something like 1,000 runners, which for a 5K is huge. So you ran at a decently sized 5K, and then you had time afterwards to spectate,
Yeah.
which to me is just the best to watch people finish.
So fun to watch people finish. It's like, I don't know, it was so exciting.
Yeah. And some of the people you watched finish were the other women on the retreat, which makes it even more special, right? Because it's like, I just remember being on the sidelines and like waiting for them. And then as soon as we saw them, we're screaming like maniacs as they're getting ready to cross the finish line. So you had, I feel like, such a complete experience of everything that running has to offer. And I'm curious, when you think of yourself as the runner that you are, how would you say this memory has shaped you?
Hmm. I think it has allowed me to see the sport in a different way. I used to see running as very much like a solo sport. So for me, like I never really ran with other people. Like I always go on runs on my own, usually outside with like a good playlist, and I kind of like it's kind of like me time, and I still love that. Don't get me wrong. Like it definitely is like relaxing, and I mean, even if I don't love it during the run, once I'm like out of breath and dying, once it's over, I'm like, oh, this is great, I want to do it again tomorrow. But like after the race, I got to see that almost like community aspect of the run, which I had never really been exposed to, because I never ran like a formal race or like ran with others, or like I have like a friend who does cross country. And so for her, it's like it almost always felt more community focused, like running with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But for me, it was always just a solo sport like that I just did because I enjoyed it. And so, yeah, after the race, I think it made me enjoy running all the more. It made me more like excited and more willing and like more open to sign up for other races for sure. I want to do a couple 5Ks this year. That's a goal. I was like, all right, that's doable. And then kind of see where we grow as a runner from there. But I really love the community aspect of it. I like the fact that we were together, we got to cheer each other on. And just running alongside other people was great. Like seeing the same people next to you and kind of like some people would be like, come on, you got this, and like motivating each other. And I don't know, like I saw a mom on the run, like pushing a stroller with her baby, and I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, you go, girl. Like, so I don't know, it was just a really different experience, which I love.
Yeah, I I love that you share that because I think a lot of us are solo runners, right? Where we do a lot of our training by ourselves, or we're not really engaging in community on a regular basis. And I know for myself, it's the race, and depending on the race, right? Where it's like sometimes the races feel like they almost feel like reunions here, especially the local races where it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. It's like you're going to a party. You're actually just running a race, but it's like you're going to a party and you're seeing all the people that you haven't seen before. And you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, look at us. But there's also this element of taking that moment while you're during the race, right? While you're running during the race, of being like, I'm here with all these other people and we're all doing the same thing. And oh my God. And I don't know if we saw the same mom on that course, but it was this mom pushing a kid on the stroller and the kid kept throwing the toy off the stroller.
She would push the stroller and then she would run and grab the toy and then like stick it back in the stroller and grab the stroller again and keep running. I was like, that's so impressive. I think
Absolutely.
keeping it together.
I know. I saw that and I was like, this mom really wants to run because and it's so funny because there was a point where the kid threw the toy off the stroller and there was a runner around me and the runner was like, do you want me to push the stroller while you get the toy? And she was like, no, I got it, I'm good. Like she was just like, this is just what happens. And it's like those moments where you're like, how amazing is that? Like there are like,
I loved
how
everything about
amazing
it.
is that?
She was so chill too. Like it wasn't like she was stressed or she was
Nothing at all. No, she wouldn't even get mad. Yeah, she was just like, again. And then she would like go and get it. And I was like, wow, you are so much cooler than I am. Because if
yeah.
that were my child, I would have taken the toy away from them and been like, now you just got to chill. Like,
yeah.
no more toy. But that's part of the racing environment, right? And I like to recommend my athletes pick races to help them experience what it's like to be with other runners, what it's like to be on a course that has support, that has, you get to see people. Last year I think we saw flamingo ladies. Is that what we saw? Right? So it's like you also get to see like people dressed up and just a different experience than when it's just you by yourself. And that is definitely like such a great gift of the running community. And I'm happy that you highlighted that because that can be the thing that for many runners motivates them to do the races. I mean, come on, like we just had recently the Dopey challenge, right? Disney, where it's a 5K, 10K, half, and a marathon. And it's like I would never want to do that. Just want to say that very clear. I would
Really?
never want to do that. But seeing all the pictures and it looks like so much fun, I'm like, do I? Like, does that sound interesting? It's like, no, Steph, you don't want to do that. But it's
Run
that
all of them?
community. Yeah, they run all races. Yeah, in 4 days.
Oh wow. No, I would never want to do that actually.
Yeah.
No.
I'm like, I never want to do that, but I see the photos and I'm like, that looks like so much fun. Like people look like they had a lot of fun. And it's like, no, come on. I know the realities of it. It may be fun and it may not be fun.
Right.
Okay. So I have a series of questions for you. So we'll see where it takes us. But the first question is, if you could go back in time to speak to a younger runner version of yourself, what would you say to her?
Okay. I think I would go back to high school Ari. Like I think it was maybe like 10th grade, or yeah, I would say like roughly around that time. I do remember at one point I got into running because obviously as like a teenage girl, just being really concerned about my body image. And I would just like talk to her. First of all, like there's just so much like self-love that you learn once you get a little bit older. But I would just tell her to enjoy the run and like do it for the fun of it, and for the endorphins, for the feeling of like, yeah, I just crushed that run, or like my body did that, like, and like not focus so much on all the other like body image things. Like, am I losing weight? Like, do I, you know, like I think, and it's easier said than done. Like as a teenage girl, you naturally worry about those things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could go back and just talk to my high school self and just tell her to that they're you know she doesn't have to worry that much about all that stuff, and that ultimately it's just fun to feel strong and to feel capable, you know.
Yeah, I remember even when I was younger as a runner myself too, where I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was, I would tell myself it's not about appearance, it's about ability, right? Like what are you able to do? It's not about how it looks, it's just about what can you do. And that's something that's really, really powerful to embrace. And I'm still trying to embrace that, right? As a woman who is aging and whose body is changing and whose relationship to movement is changing as well, because my body is changing. Like I'm like, oh, there are curves in places that there didn't used to be curves. So now doing certain, like, and I notice it's more specifically like with yoga, like when I'm practicing yoga, where I'm like, oh, I used to love that pose, but now I don't, because now I got a little more action in the hips and it just doesn't feel good anymore. So it's that reminder of, okay, it's ability. It's how does it feel? And can we focus on like how does it feel, and maybe chasing the thing that feels good, even if it may not like look the prettiest. But
100%.
it's again, it's a lesson. Okay, so flipping it, you've kind of alluded to it, but let's see what you say to this. What hopes do you have for your future runner self?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think I dropped a couple hints. So I think this year will be more of like a let's run for fun. Let's maybe do a couple 5Ks. Like, you know, that's the kind of goal I have in mind. I don't want to like let go of running but I want to just kind of keep it fun and light this year. And I have to figure out a way to include it in my current routine, which right now I'm like weight training like 4 days a week and like whatever. I'm on this like really trying to build some strength this year. So trying to figure out how to balance the two. And then post wedding, which the wedding's December 2026. So it'll really be mostly kicking off 2027. I want to start training for like longer distances. So that's when you'll probably see me training for a 10K, maybe a half, who knows? Maybe I'll become like Steph. Only time will tell. I don't know if I have the what is it, like the mindset or like the superpower you have for marathons, because I think that's like a whole other challenge. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know.
I don't
But
think I have it either. Don't worry. There's always a moment of just utter disbelief that I'm thinking I'm going to do another marathon. So don't worry. This is just, you have no clue. You have no clue. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait until you start, and who knows where the path takes you.
yeah, who knows where it'll take me. But I definitely have the goal of wanting to train for something a little further and just like more for the challenge. Like I want to challenge myself and like challenge my self-discipline to like show up and pull through the training program, and like just challenge my body to see what it can do. And I think it'll be really cool. Yeah.
I think so too. Okay. How do you celebrate yourself as a runner, as a mover? How do you celebrate yourself as an active woman?
It's a good question. I don't know. Um, no, I guess okay, for the most part, and I will say there's days where I show up at the gym and I I'm just happy I made it there. But for the most part, I enjoy movement. So I think like for me, it's more like I always generally feel really good after moving my body in whatever way that I chose that day, whether it's weight training, whether it's running, whether it's a Pilates class or a yoga class. So I tend to just like really revel in enjoying that feeling after. During weight training, I mean, you'll see me, especially when I get lucky and the gym is empty. If I have a really good playlist, you almost like catch me dancing a little bit between sets, just because I'm like so into it and just having such a good time. And that's not to say it's every time, because people do ask me. I have patients ask me a lot because of my profession. Like they're like, "Oh, are you just one of those people that like loves working out all the time?" And I'm like, "No, like discipline is still really hard. Like there's days where I would rather watch Netflix and stay on my couch
Mhm.
for work. But by the way, you have to watch this new series called His and Hers. It's very good. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part, I would say like that's my form of celebration. But I don't know. I don't know if there's any other ways I do that. I think just enjoying the process, and especially if I hit like a new PR. Like recently, I was able to hip thrust more weight than I have in a while, and I was feeling really good about it.
Yeah, I think there's that question in particular has been my favorite question of all the ones that I think I asked all season, that I ask all of you, because it makes us pause, right?
Yeah.
Because and I say we as the collective, we take for granted what we can do, right? We take for granted that our bodies are able to move in the way that they do. And when you have to pause and celebrate, that is an opportunity to acknowledge that you are doing something amazing, even if it's so normal to you, right? Going to the gym is normal. You do it 4 times a week. It's normal because it's part of your routine. But the reality is that it is not normal, right? It is not normal in our country, in, just in general. It is not normal to be an active person, even though it may seem like we are surrounded by a lot of active people because, the algorithm, or where, the communities that we're a part of are going to have people that are very similar to us. So we start to take for granted that going to the gym, having access to the gym, having the confidence to go to the gym.
Yeah, that's actually a huge one. I can still like vividly remember when I first started like stepping foot in a gym and feeling so uncomfortable and like purposely like, using more so like the free weights and then like kind of being off to a corner with them. I would even like wrap like a sweatshirt like around my waist because I didn't want to
Mhm.
be, being in like a deadlift and like just like, I don't know, the gym made me uncomfortable, especially when it was like packed with like what you would consider like gym bros.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt like men, and that's the thing that I've noticed has changed. I feel like when I first started going to the gym, it was like very male dominated and it made me so uncomfortable and I felt so out of place. And then now I actually love it when I go to a gym and it's like mostly women around me. I'm like,
Mhm.
that's awesome. So I get really excited about that. And yeah, I think you're right. We do take it for granted because I feel super comfortable stepping into a gym, like, and I don't even think about it twice, and I'm there doing whatever. I literally dance in the gym and I don't care who's
Yeah.
around. But there was a time where that wasn't the case. Yeah, no, we take that for granted. And also given my profession and like I work with people of all ages. So I also get to see like how people age and like how people function at older ages. And that's something I try not to take for granted anymore. Like I am so like when I train, like my mindset towards that has changed so much. Like, yes, we all have a little bit of vanity. Yes, we all want to look good and feel good and all that. But like for the most part, like my biggest motivator is like I want to age well and function well and be well into my 70s and 80s and like still fully functioning and capable and independent. Like I want to be able to get on and off the toilet without
Yep.
needing
That's
assistance,
that's
you
that's
know?
what I say. I want to be able to sit on the toilet without needing anyone's help. So those squats are my best friends, right? Like it
Yeah.
really is. It's the functionality over time, and that's where it connects even to just running, right? Like that's to all movement. It's how do you do things for the long term? And it is recognizing that those things there's a functional bit to them. So it's not just, are you running because maybe you want to get faster or you want to do these distance? It's you're running because your heart needs the cardiovascular stuff. So on top of just doing the runs because you want to do the race, it's actually really good for your heart. And that's what we need as we continue to age. So it's always expanding the definition of what these things are to a more functional thing of what is it? How do I want my life to look? How do I want to experience being a human when I'm in my 70s, 80s, 90s? Like, I want to be that person still, running around the track, even if it looks like a shuffle when I'm 85. Like, I still want to do that.
There was this patient at I used to work at this clinic, and there was this patient there. She must have been well into her 80s, or like, I don't remember her exact age, but she was definitely on the older side, and she was still fully running and like fully participating in like triathlons and all this stuff. And she would always come in with her new medal or her new t-shirt, she was like in a race like every other weekend. Like it was insanity, but like she was always so proud. And obviously like she would sometimes get like medals for being like in her age group. Like she would be like
she's
number
like
one.
the only one.
It's like the cutest thing ever. And like she took, she was in PT all the time, and it was because she wanted to stay functional. So she was, she was like in physical therapy, and not necessarily for like a specific injury. It was just like, oh no, I want to stay functional and keep active for as long as possible. So I always admired that.
Yeah.
She was really cute. She like the turkey trot, she would dress up like a turkey. Like she just like had the best.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
That's my goal. Like, that's really when you have fun. I feel like at that age, if you make it to that age healthy and injury free and strong, I feel like that's when you really start to have fun because or hopefully at that point you've come to accept that like your your fastest days are behind you, and now fast looks different, strong looks different, so you can embrace it and enjoy it in a really different way. Okay, I have two more questions for you. This first one is the easiest one, and it's just, where do we find you and how do we best connect with you?
You can find me on Instagram or on my website. I think Instagram is probably easiest, and it's just Forma Physiotherapy, and I'm sure Steph will leave it in the bio. And you can either send me a DM there, or there should be a link there for you to WhatsApp message me, whatever is easiest. But I love it when you guys reach out with any questions or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay, final question is, what are your final words for us?
Oh, it's always so hard. Okay. So final words, I would say, for any woman listening, I would say, don't underestimate your capability. Um, don't be afraid to try different forms of movement. You might surprise yourself. And I would say, and change your mindset around your health and well-being to encompass the fact that we are all aging and we want to train for longevity, and we want to nourish our bodies for longevity. And so I'm all for having, vanity goals, like wanting to look good, wanting to have a six pack or whatever it is, or, cute bum. But I also think with that in mind, you can have those goals and also still have the goals of, I want to build muscle and I want to build strength because I want to age well and I want to feel good and when I'm 70. And I think that mindset shift was like that was like life changing for me. And I try to empower all the women in my life to pick up some weights. They don't have to be the heaviest weight on the rack, and to inform themselves on how to build strength and how to nourish their bodies as they get older.
I love that. I love that. And we're going to leave it at that. So, Ari, thank you so much for joining me in this episode. You're incredible. And I am so lucky that I get to know you and that I get to work with you and that I get to kind of have a little bit of a front row seat to who you are going to become as a runner this year and hopefully beyond. So thank you for everything. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me, Steph. I'm always so grateful to be invited on the podcast, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.